Sometimes the world doesn't need another political headline. Sometimes the world needs a moment of honesty, a moment where power pauses and listens. Today, we're not just talking about a warning from one man to a nation. We're talking about the thin line that separates war from peace, pride from humility, and destruction from destiny. There comes a time when words must weigh more than weapons, when the silence after a threat is louder than the threat itself. And when two nations stand at the edge of conflict, the world waits. Breath held, hearts heavy, wondering who will step back and who will step forward with wisdom. This isn't about politics. It's about people. It's about the mother praying her son doesn't go to war, the father hoping his daughter never sees a battlefield. It's about the children who deserve to sleep under peaceful skies, not the roar of missiles or the fear of what might come. Every time a leader speaks with force, a ripple goes through the world. And while some may see strength in boldness, true strength is seen when a leader chooses restraint. Because anyone can raise their voice, but it takes courage to stay calm. It takes greater power to choose peace than to provoke destruction. The urgency to choose diplomacy now is not just a strategic move, it's a moral one. We've seen what happens when talks fail. We've seen cities crumble, dreams buried beneath rubble, and nations carry scars for generations. So why do we wait? Why do we let pride and politics take center stage while humanity suffers quietly in the wings? Maybe it's because we're used to hearing about power, but not about purpose. Maybe we've heard too many speeches, but not enough heart. Diplomacy isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the art of listening before reacting, of trying before tearing down, of seeing the humanity in the enemy and the possibility in the problem. When two sides clash, the whole world shakes. But when two sides come together to speak, to reason, to compromise, the world heals. That's the urgency we face now. Not next year, not after another attack, not after another life is lost, but now. Because every moment we wait, tension grows. And when tension grows, so does the risk of miscalculation, a misstep, a misunderstanding. And sometimes it only takes a spark to ignite a fire that we can't put out. So we ask, with the little voices we have, can someone speak peace louder than threats? Can someone value life more than legacy? Can someone stand up not to show force, but to show faith in the better way? Diplomacy is not a document. It's not a photo of handshakes for the media. It's choosing the hard path of humility. It's saying, let's talk before we fight. It's building bridges where the world expects walls. And those who choose diplomacy in moments like this, they don't just change policy. They change history. They give children a future without fear. They give the world a reminder that even in our most divided moments, peace is still possible. This moment, this warning, is not just about one man or one nation. It's a wake-up call. Because if we don't listen now, we may not get another chance. Let us not allow destruction to be our default. Let us not choose silence when our voices can still change the course. Let us not waste this window, however narrow, to choose reason over retaliation. To every leader standing at a crossroads, what you do now echoes far beyond your borders. The world is watching, not for power, but for peace. Not for retaliation, but for resolution. The urgency is real, the choice is ours, and the time is now. Words. They seem so simple. Letters strung together, carried by breath, echoing through rooms, screens, and hearts. But in the hands of a leader, words are not just sounds. They are weapons. They are bridges. They are decisions that either heal or destroy. In this world, where headlines change faster than our hearts can process, one thing always remains. Words matter. Because behind every speech, there's a ripple. Behind every statement, there's a consequence. And when a leader speaks, the world doesn't just listen, it reacts. One sentence, one warning, one phrase like, make a deal before it's too late, and shift alliances, spark fear, ignite hope, or even move nations to the edge of war. That's how powerful words are in global leadership. And that's why they must be spoken with purpose, not pride. With wisdom, not impulse, because people remember what leaders say. They remember the ones who chose calm in chaos. The ones who extended a hand when it was easier to raise a fist. The ones who didn't just speak to be heard, but to make others feel seen. There's something sacred about being given a voice that the world listens to. Not everyone has that. Not everyone gets the chance to change the temperature of a room or the direction of a nation with just a sentence, but leaders do. And in moments of crisis, uncertainty, or division, it's not weapons we wait for, it's words. Words that give clarity, words that guide, words that comfort people who don't know what to believe anymore. Words that say, we see you, we hear you, we're still fighting for peace. But sometimes words are used differently. Sometimes they're thrown like stones, meant to intimidate rather than inspire, meant to corner, not connect, meant to declare power, not peace. And that's where the damage begins. Because words have a way of planting seeds. Seeds that grow into fear, division, pride, or into unity and healing. The choice of what to plant is in the hands of the one speaking. We often forget that behind the title, behind the podium, behind the country, a leader is still a human being. And every human being has the ability to speak life or speak destruction. In a world already tired of conflict, people are craving voices that build instead of break. Voices that remind us that strength is not in who can yell the loudest, but in who can speak with the most conviction and calm. Because when the world is watching, words are never just words. They are instructions, they are messages, they are signals to the ones holding the line, waiting on what to do next. And maybe that's what we need to hear again, that global leadership isn't about domination, it's about direction. And words are the compass. Even in the smallest sentence, there's a world of meaning. A threat may sound like control, but it's fear speaking. A warning may sound like strength, but it can also be a final cry for diplomacy. But a voice that speaks peace, that chooses honesty, that dares to be human in a world hardened by politics, that kind of voice is rare and powerful because anyone can start a war, but it takes a true leader to stop one with just their words. So the next time a microphone is turned on, the next time a press conference is held, the next time a statement is written and sent around the world, let it be a reminder that someone is always listening. Someone who may never meet that leader, but will be deeply affected by what they say. And maybe, just maybe, will begin to raise a generation of leaders who speak not to impress, but to impact. Who use words not for power, but for peace. Because at the end of the day, when the cameras are off and the speeches are done, the real question is this: did our words make the world better, or did we waste the very gift that could have saved it? That's the power of words, and that's the kind of leadership the world is still waiting for. Every nation has a moment when the world turns to watch. A moment when silence is no longer an option, and every move, every word becomes a signal. Right now, Iran is in that moment. It's not just about politics. It's not just about power. It's about perception, pressure, and presence on the global stage. The spotlight is on, and the world is watching closely. But this spotlight isn't the kind that flatters. It exposes, it reveals the cracks, the questions, and the choices that can no longer be hidden. Iran isn't just navigating its own policies and plans. It's standing at the center of international concern, criticism, and calculation. And in a world that's already divided, that position is both powerful and dangerous. Because right now, eyes are not just on what Iran is doing, but on what Iran is choosing not to do. The choices it delays, the deals it declines, the conversations it avoids. All of these are being noted, not just by one country, but by many. This isn't about fear. It's about expectation. The expectation that a nation with history, pride, and influence will rise to meet the moment, not with resistance, but with responsibility. Iran's voice matters. Its decisions matter. and how it carries itself now will echo for years to come. There's something deeply human about this moment, because behind the politics are people, mothers and fathers, daughters and sons, who just want to live in peace, to wake up without anxiety, to build a future that isn't held hostage by headlines. And while leaders speak from podiums, it's the people who live with the consequences. That's why the world is watching, not just to see how Iran responds to threats, but to see if it will respond with wisdom. Not just to hear statements, but to feel sincerity. Not just to read policies, but to recognize peace offerings. The truth is, every great nation comes to a point when it must decide whether its pride is louder than its purpose. And that's where Iran stands today. This isn't about surrender. This is about strategy. It's about the kind of strength that doesn't shout, but negotiates. The kind of dignity that doesn't explode in retaliation, but answers with calm and courage. Because the world has seen what happens when warnings are ignored. We've seen what follows when words turn into war. We've seen how generations suffer when one opportunity for peace is missed. This time can be different. But only if Iran chooses to be different. Only if it understands that the world isn't waiting for it to collapse. The world is hoping it will collaborate. Hoping that this chapter in history won't be written in smoke and sirens, but in dialogue and determination. Every step Iran takes now will speak volumes. Even silence speaks. So does hesitation. So does delay. And yet, in all of this, there's still time. There's still room. There's still a door open for diplomacy. But doors don't stay open forever. And when the world is watching, what it sees can either restore trust or raise alarm. Iran has the chance to show leadership. Not just regional influence, but moral leadership. And preventing an unsustainable peaceful trial will not prevent the war. We have to prevent consequence. Discipline, 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 discipline. Agar has the chance to show leadership, not just regional influence, but moral leadership. To show the world that it is not only aware of its power, but careful with it. That it doesn't see dialogue as weakness, but as wisdom. That it doesn't fear being misunderstood, but believes in making itself understood through peace. Because when the world watches with weary eyes, it isn't looking for who will win the next argument. It's looking for who will take the first step toward healing. And maybe, just maybe, if that step comes from the very place we least expected, the world won't just be watching Iran, it will be inspired by it. So let every move be mindful, let every message carry meaning, because in this moment, what Iran chooses to do next won't only define its future, it might define the future for all of us. There's something time never forgets, the price we pay when we wait too long. In history, delay is not a pause. It's a decision. And sometimes, it's the one that hurts the most. We like to believe we have time. We convince ourselves that tomorrow will come, that the conversation can happen later, that peace can wait. But history keeps showing us it can't. And it won't. Because the world doesn't wait for anyone. Neither does conflict. While leaders debate and delay, people suffer. And by the time action finally comes, it's not repair, it's regret. We've seen this before. Moments when diplomacy was possible but ignored. When peace was an option but pride was louder. When silence wasn't just quiet, it was dangerous. You only need to look back at the wars we swore we'd never repeat. The lives lost. The homes destroyed. The futures erased. Not because there wasn't a way out, but because the way out was postponed, overlooked, dismissed. And in every one of those moments, there was a window. A small, fragile window of time where something different could have been chosen. But it wasn't. Delay is not always neutral. It creates space for destruction to grow. It gives anger a stage. It lets fear fester, and it steals the opportunity to choose healing when healing was still possible. That's what makes moments like this, what the world is facing now, so important. Because the signs are all around us. Tensions rising, warnings being spoken, opportunities to negotiate, to sit, to talk. But the more we wait, the more the moment slips away, and once it's gone, there's no bringing it back. That's the weight of delay, It may feel safe in the moment to stall, to avoid, to wait for a better time. But history always shows us the better time is never guaranteed. And when we look back, it's not the bold decisions we regret the most. It's the ones we were too afraid to make in time. Peace takes courage, and courage is not loud. It's not always heroic. Sometimes it's just the quiet decision to pick up the phone, to walk into a room, to say, let's fix this. But delay keeps us from that. It tricks us into thinking we have control, that by doing nothing, we're being careful. But more often than not, delay is fear wearing the mask of strategy. And the world has paid for that fear with blood, with sorrow, with generations carrying the weight of decisions they didn't even make. So now the question isn't, what will we say later? It's what are we willing to say now? Because this is the now. This is the moment that one day history will point to and say, that's when it could have been different. That's when someone could have spoken up. That's when a deal could have been made. That's when the noise of pride could have been silenced by the sound of wisdom. But only if we don't wait too long. There is still time, yes. But not as much as we think. Peace is still possible, but it's not patient. It needs leaders who understand that waiting is not always wise. Sometimes it's the most dangerous move of all. Because delay doesn't freeze the situation, it accelerates the consequences. And we're seeing those consequences begin in the headlines, in the tensions, in the fear that's building in everyday people who just want to wake up tomorrow without wondering what's next. Then the window is still open, but for how long? That's the urgency. It's not panic, it's not pressure, it's perspective. History is teaching us again that time is not the enemy, but our failure to act in time might be. So let this be the moment where we don't just talk about peace, but pursue it. Where we don't wait for war to begin before we realize it was always avoidable. Where we finally understand that delay isn't safety, it's a cost. And the longer we wait, the higher that cost becomes. This isn't a political message. This isn't about who's right and who's wrong. This is personal. Because when you strip away the debates, the borders, and the flags, what you're left with are people, human beings, just like you, just like me. And the truth is, I'm tired. Tired of watching the world crumble from words thrown like weapons. Tired of seeing leaders speak with threats while children sleep under skies filled with fear. Tired of hearing sirens in places where there should be laughter and seeing silence in rooms where there should be dialogue. This is my plea. Not as a strategist, not as a journalist, not as an expert, but as a person. Someone who believes that peace isn't just a distant dream. It's a choice we keep avoiding. And every time we delay that choice, someone somewhere pays the price. Maybe it's a mother holding on to hope that her son won't be sent to war. Maybe it's a father who just wants to go home from work without seeing another protest on the street. Maybe it's a child who doesn't understand what nuclear means, but knows what fear feels like. This world, it's aching. Not because we don't have solutions, but because we keep ignoring them. We choose pride over people. We choose winning over listening. We choose to be right instead of being kind. But what if, for once, we chose differently? What if leaders stopped speaking to impress and started speaking to connect? What if nations laid down their weapons long enough to pick up a pen and write peace instead? What if we dared to believe that diplomacy is not weakness, but the highest form of strength? I know it sounds naive, but maybe that's exactly what we need, a little bit of innocence in a world that's grown too cynical. A little bit of faith in a world that only believes in force. Because at some point, we have to stop asking what will happen if we try and start asking what will be left if we don't. I'm not asking for perfection, just humility. Just courage, the kind of courage that says, I'd rather talk for hours than fight for years. The kind of humility that admits, maybe we've made mistakes, but we can still do better. We owe it to the next generation, to the ones watching us now, wondering what kind of world we're handing over to them. Do we want them to inherit division, to carry trauma we created, to rebuild from the ashes of our indecision? Or do we want to give them something different, something better? I know peace, and I know it's not easy, but every peaceful moment we've ever had in history began with someone who believed it was still possible. So here I am, believing, not because I have all the answers, but because I refuse to believe that war is the only one left. I'm pleading to the hearts behind the titles, to the humans behind the politics, to the leaders who still remember what it's like to be afraid, what it's like to lose, what it's like to hope. Please talk before it's too late. Choose wisdom before weapons. Choose people before pride. There is still time, still air to breathe, still bridges that haven't burned, still rooms where peace talks can begin. Still hands that are willing to reach across a line, but no one can do it alone. Peace isn't just one decision, it's many, made by those brave enough to care. So let's care. Let's stop pretending we're too powerful to be soft, too proud to apologize, too far gone to turn around. Because if we don't, what's left? Another speech over another grave? Another lesson that comes too late? No. Let's not let history repeat itself again. Let this be the time we remember our humanity. Let this be the moment we protect what truly matters. Let this be the start not of another war story, but of a peace testimony. One day, our children will ask what we did when the world was on edge. Let's give them an answer worth telling. This isn't just about Trump, and it's not just about Iran. It's about us. It's about the world we want to pass on to the next generation. Let's not wait until it's too late. Let's choose peace while we still can.